On this edition of Dan Shonka's Scouting Section, with the SEC Championship game on Saturday, and as two of the top teams in the country clash, will the best players be able to step up on the biggest stage and demonstrate their abilities for everyone to see? Well, Dan will give you his current report on the players in this big game to keep an eye on for the 2018 NFL Draft, as the OFN Scouting Section with Dan Shonka on the Our Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Friday, December 1st, 2017. I'm Greg DePalma. You're listening to the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And yes, the college football season is almost over. Championship weekend begins tonight with the Pac-12. And then before you know it, the bowl season will be over, the playoffs and the championship will be over, and then things really start picking up in January, of course, here on the Our Lads Football Network. And we're going to take you all the way through to the NFL Draft for 2018. So let's, though, talk about this big SEC game as I welcome in Dan Shonka. And Dan, we got the rematch, Georgia and Auburn. So have you had time yet, or do you recall what you saw from the first outing, including, of course, what happened with two of your top 5 rated senior running backs, Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, that got shut down?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Auburn is one of those kind of teams that I guess you'd say is trending upward. They're just, getting better through this whole year. And they, obviously with Kerryon Johnson exploding on the scene and do things. But people don't realize this if you didn't see the game. It really didn't get out of hand until about, that end of the third quarter.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, It was a dogfight back and forth, and then all of a sudden, Auburn started rolling. Stidham, the quarterback from Auburn, started burning it up, and he looked like a big-time quarterback there and everything. And that was that's the thing. And they bottled them up. I mean, they got the defensive tackle there. He's a redshirt junior. I don't know if he'll come out at Auburn, but Dentarius Russell, 95, who really clogged up those inside running lanes, and the linebackers, Trey Williams, who is playing a weak side linebacker, really did some good things. And then they got 2 guys in the secondary, pro prospects. 3. Carlton Davis is a junior, and he's going to probably be a first round guy. But they got all those guys in the secondary that are very productive. So they did a good job on run support and things like that. So I think that but that being said, when you play a team just a few weeks ago. And they know what your game plan is, and you'll make a few wrinkles. I mean, things can change. I mean, I think this should be a great game, but Auburn might get the tip of the fedora here.
How difficult is it for you to scout and really understand what's going on when you see the domination at the line from Auburn? Again, both Chubb and Michel only averaged 1.4 per carry. So is there a way also to say, okay, well, I understand that a lot of it had to do with Auburn's defenders against Georgia's offensive line and their inability to open up holes, but maybe it's also, I'm assuming, possible for you to go, yeah, but I'd like to kind of see Chubb or Michel do this or that, and maybe they'd be able to at least gain an extra, yard or 2 per carry. Is there a way for you to, is that something that goes into studying these guys, even when it looks like, to the average eye that they're being completely shut down and it's not the running back's fault?
Well, Georgia's had this problem the last several years, and that's why Mark Richt isn't around either, is their offensive line has not been very good. And, their center, Andrews, who's actually starting for the Patriots right now, he was a free agent, and he was their best lineman there. And the other linemen they're just not very good. Yeah. I mean, they got a guard this year that is going to go to the Senior Bowl, and stuff like that. But I want to tell you something. I don't care how great a running back you are, and if you don't have some blocking up front, you're not going anywhere. And see, Barkley ran into that up at Penn State. They couldn't create any kind of running lane, and he'd bounce it outside and turn the corner and things. So, both those guys, I mean, Chubb and Michelle are both very good running backs, and they just need a crease. If you can give them a crease, you got something. But I tell you, Wynn is the guy that projects. He's going to go to Senior Bowl, but he projects as a guard. But the other guys up front are just guys. You got some couple freshmen, and hey, if you clog up those running lanes, man, you are in trouble.
Yeah, because Auburn, I mean, this is the difference, right? Because Auburn has got three senior linemen in center, Austin Golson, who is your seventh-rated senior center. Guards Braden Smith and Darius James, and Smith is your second-rated senior guard. So that's a big difference as far as Auburn's talent up front compared to Georgia's. So what about that? Was Smith your top guy out of the group?
Oh, you mean the guard?
Yeah, Braden Smith. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Braden is the top offensive lineman. Yes.
And what is it about these guys? Is there anything? Do they work to get better together as a group? Is Braden Smith? Is he more like, a second-round draft pick?
He'll probably end up going in the third, but because it all depends on numbers of the juniors that come out at different positions and needs and and talent and all that. But you could project him right now late second, but I think more likely he'll end up in the third.
Okay.
But like I said, they're more talented across the front. Even some of their guys that are going to be late round draft choice, things like that. Auburn now we're talking about.
Sure.
They're they're more athletic. They've got some athletic guys up front. They're not real hammers or anything, but you got guys like Darius James, for instance. He's got some talent. The Dunn kid has got a talent. He's a senior, and so they've got some talent along with Golston. See, Golston got kicked out to left tackle now from center. He was center early, and they kicked him out to left tackle.
Yep.
And he's not a high draft choice or anything like that.
Sure.
But at least they've got some guys up front.
Yeah.
Three of them got draftable, or draftable.
Yeah, and that could be the big difference. What about Kerryon Johnson? I remember we talked about in the beginning of the season when Auburn lost to Clemson, and I made the comment about how I thought one of the big reasons was because of the fact that Johnson wasn't playing. I think he had an injury in the game, I believe, or before the game, and Petway was getting all the carries, and that against that Clemson front, Petway is just not the elusive guy that Johnson was. And then all of a sudden, we started seeing Johnson when he was healthy more and more, and he became the number one back, and Petway's hurt. So now Johnson's the guy that everybody's got an eye on. So what about Johnson? Is he somebody? Is he just a slightly above average type of guy? Anything special about him?
Well, he's got a slippery quality to him, and he can explode through a seam. And that's one thing Petway couldn't do.
Yes.
He's a wide body guy. He's downhill kind of hammer. And I think what this is a microscopic version of what you're seeing in the NFL now, where we used to always have those big, strong running backs that were durable and they were kind of your guy, get 25, 30, carries a game.
Yep.
Well, now you got these smaller guys that can, get to and through the hole quickly, and that's what Johnson can do. You make a little seam for him, and boom, he's going to get, the off tackle or he'll get downhill quickly. It's just hitting the hole extremely quickly,
yep.
and that's going to give a guy like Johnson, a heads up. But I tell you what now, both those Georgia guys can too, but they just have to have seams up there to run.
Yeah. And speaking of guys that hit the hole, it's like a former SEC running back last year. That's why I think Mark Ingram and the kid from Tennessee, Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara.
Why they are such a good complement to each other, because Ingram, he's more of the physical in between the tackles guy, and then all of a sudden they hand it off to Kamara, and he's like zoop. He doesn't hesitate. He just goes flying through the hole. And that's like you said, along the lines what the NFL is looking for. Okay, Georgia's defense. I was talking about this before, and I'll talk with our Georgia guy, Anthony Dasher, and I'll also talk today with Brian Matthews on the Auburn side. I think the Auburn. For Georgia, if they're going to win this football game, their defense is probably going to have to step up. Their defense is going to have to cause the same havoc that Auburn's defense is causing. So you look at their defense. You've got Trent Thompson, your 6th-rated underclass defensive tackle. You've got Roquan Smith. You've got Dominic Sanders, who's your number 3 junior free safety, and you've got seniors Lorenzo Carter and David Bellamy. Back there, Carter's your number 7 senior linebacker. So, out of those guys, which guy sticks out the most in that group?
Well, Roquan Smith. I mean, he's the bell cow there, and actually, he should be. I don't know if he'll come out, but we got him. Even though he's not a real big guy, now he's not. In fact, you just look at these linebackers around the country that were in the Butkus and things like that. For the most part, those guys like Daniel from Clemson is about 215, 217. Smith from Georgia, he's not, he's around 215, 217, 220, depending on, if he had a big breakfast at McDonald's or something like that. But, a Bush up at Michigan, he's not a 5'11", 225 guy. Hey, one thing they can do, they can get downhill quickly, they can cover, and they're very explosive guys, and that's what Roquan Smith is. He's a super, explosive sideline to sideline player that can run and cover.
Yeah, that's when I asked the same question to Anthony Dasher, that's exactly who he said to, Roquan Smith. All right, for Auburn, you mentioned a few of these guys, but because they're underclassmen, Carlton Davis and Jeff Holland were not in your brochure that's out right now. So what have you seen so far about these guys who have had really good seasons? Davis being a DB and Holland being a linebacker, if they decided to come out.
Yeah, I think Davis, again, I always hate to, give a flat answer on something. But, the thing is, Davis is big and talented and just depends on what he runs. Yep. That's always the bottom line, how well a guy can run. They look like they can run well, but, hey, until you put the watch on them, you don't know. And but I could see Davis, going in the late first round or maybe mid-first round if, he really explodes when he runs and stuff because he does have size. He's got stuff that, NFL people want. He can tackle. He's pretty durable. So, if not, I don't, if he does come out, he probably won't get out. If he doesn't go, that part of the first round, then he's not going to get out of the early part of the second.
Yeah, Brian Matthews, who will be with me later tonight, definitely said that Davis is the top guy there as well when I spoke to him about a month ago. All right, so before I let you go, though, hey, this game, if it's a close game down at the end, the advantage is going to be for Auburn because they have Daniel Carlson. He's their top-rated senior kicker. And he was making the clutch kicks for Auburn in that game against Georgia. I mean, he makes the big kicks and the deep kicks. I mean, he has got a strong leg. So how does he compare from what you've seen from other kickers that have come out and been drafted? And, it's almost getting like, people are starting to wonder whether or not these kickers will get drafted that high anymore because it seems like all the guys that get drafted high seem to fail.
Yeah, the Arguello one is really puzzling to me because, gee whiz, he got the ball up quick. He had good height on his kickoffs and things. And, I think what happened is he got in the NFL in the first preseason game. He kind of fizzled, and then he became a head case and got the yips. You know what I mean? Like in baseball, where the second baseman can't throw it, to the shortstop anymore. He's throwing out in left field. Uh-huh. And I think that's what happened to him. But Carlson, personally, I love Arguello, but I wouldn't have taken him in the second round. And Carlson, hey, he's a good kicker, but I tell you what, I don't know. I tell you what, if after all the workouts and stuff like that, because he's had a few ups and downs himself, those guys are like golfers. Some days they're really on and they keep that stroke going right through all the time. But once you get that club out of the, the the path that you have to go on all the time. It's like your leg that it gets out of the path, then you're in trouble. But Carlson, you're right. I mean, he's the difference maker, and he can kick a long one if need be.
Dan, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I'm going to let you run, but we'll have a lot more to talk about, especially after this weekend, all during the bowl season.
Thanks a million, Greg.
Thank you, Dan. That's Dan Shonka. And that'll wrap it up for the scouting section. We want to remind everybody, though, if you're listening live, we have a very busy show that is going to start at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, and this is, of course, our weekly show, college football show. This is where we usually have a couple of interviews every week. I will go through the games, the top games, key injury updates, odds, picks, and all that kind of stuff. But this particular week, boy, it seemed like just about everybody that I was inviting on said yes, which is awesome. And it gives us an opportunity to talk to a wide variety of writers, broadcasters, bottom line, people who cover these teams for a living, know what they're talking about. We've already had a bunch of them on this week, and we have one more show to go, and that's the college football show that's going to be starting at 4 Eastern. We're going to talk to Carlos Mendez, Fort Worth Star-Telegram for TCU. Then we're going to go back-to-back Big 12 with Ryan Aber on the Oklahoman at 4:30. Mike Huguenin will join us to go with a national perspective from Gridiron Now. Then Brian Matthews from Auburn Rivals, I just spoke about a couple of times on this show, will join me at 5:30. And Ben Wargel from Badger Nation and Scout will join us to talk about the Wisconsin-Ohio State game. And don't forget, on demand already right now, we've got Kevin Noon from BuckeyeGrove.com, the perspective of the Ohio State side of things. And also from earlier today, we had a couple of guests on to talk about the ACC championship game. Phil Kornblut from Sports Talk Radio Network in South Carolina, and Gary Furman was also with us to talk to Miami side from Kane Sport. So that's available on demand. We've got a bunch of interviews available on demand this week for the games. We'll be tweeting them out real soon, probably as soon as they get off the air. Some of them are already available at ourlads.com on the website, but that 4 o'clock show should be about a good 2.5, 3 hour show. 5 guests. We're going to try to cover, well, we're not try. We are going to cover every single championship game, including the game that starts tonight and all the other championship games tomorrow. So that's coming up if you're listening live a little bit later on here on the Our Lads Football Radio Network. So thanks for tuning in to Dan Shonka Scouting Section. And we will see you again next time right here with Dan Shonka on the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. Flag and send